What up, dudes? It's Gaz, and welcome back to the WARFRAME video. So, finally putting out the zombie Loki build today, after the Dante Unbound update's been released. So it's actually a good thing I waited because there's some important information we learned from the newest disruption node about how Loki's gonna be, in the meta of the game going forward. And yeah, this build today is very, very strong. So let's get right into it because there's a decent amount of stuff to go over. But before we do, make sure you sub this channel. We do daily Warframe video uploads. I'll have a Dante build video coming out in the next couple days, and a ton of other videos involving the new update very, very soon. And we will be entailing some of the parts of the update today, such as the new Void Rig and Bone Widow Demolis and how to take care of those. So we'll be going over that as well. Additionally, I'd like to state as well that this build was inspired by a few people. It was inspired by Darth Muffin with a comment on my old Augment video, and also Zamazard doing Void Cascade with me like a couple months ago on Loki. So I really didn't play Loki that much, and I forgot this amazing augment existed, so thanks to those two for helping remind me this existed in the first place. So shout out to them. Okay, let's get right into what we're using here and why it's so ridiculous. Honestly, maybe Revenant might be crying because we're getting to do some stuff that Revenant's not even allowed to do. So the way this build works, you basically use Nourish, and you use the Safeguard Switch Augment mod to just be invincible forever. We have about 5 seconds of invincibility. As long as we re-swap before that invincibility ends, we are going to be going invincible over and over and over again. And it also will work on our teammates too. So let's say we wanted to make our Volt player in our mission permanently invincible. We can do that. Now, reminder as well, Loki is invincible and invisible. So it's actually quite redundant, but also it would be silly to subsume off his invisibility. So now we're invincible and invisible. You're not going to die. You're not going to die at all. And additionally, Loki got some buffs this update, where if you switch teleport, you get a massive movement speed buff. And he also got a buff where his decoy now steals enemies' armor and health to make itself more tanky. Well, maybe steals the wrong word. It absorbs some of it to make it more tanky. So now, as far as the differences between Ash and Loki, and I guess Octavia for that matter on zombie builds, what benefits does Loki have that Ash and Revenant and all them don't have? One of the biggest ones is going to be the Switch Teleport, or I guess it's called Safe Teleport, Safeguard Switch Augment mod. So this is what a lot of the build is focused on right here. Switch teleporting an enemy will give you invincibility for 3 seconds. Switch teleporting an ally will give them a lot of invincibility for a long time. This does scale with duration too. So the more duration you have, you can see we have 327 duration before multi-efficiency. The more duration you have, the longer you'll be invincible. So if we switch teleport one of our teammates, 20 seconds of invincibility, and of course when we throw in more duration, it becomes even longer. Additionally, this does remove negative status effects on Loki and the allies as well. So you don't need Prime Sure-Footed either. So really good stuff there. And we are running Nourish. The reason we're running Nourish, and the reason this is called a zombie build in the first place, is because these zombie builds are meant to be the lowest mental effort required to do level 10,000 missions. And that's what we do in this, I've done this on stream multiple times over the last couple weeks. So this video is like over a week overdue. But yeah, so we got Precision Intensify to make the 4th ability, Nourish, have more power strength. And Nourish did get nerfed. So with 214% power strength, we've got a 2.82 energy multiplier and 136% viral damage increase. That's going to go on top of all our weapons to make it where it's viral on top. And the energy multiplier is going to be feeding into Energy Nexus. With Energy Nexus stacked up with Nourish, we're getting about 10 energy regen per second. Our Safeguard Teleport is about 40 energy to recast it. So as long as you recast this once every 10 seconds-ish, or if you get enough energy to regen to get cast this every 8 seconds, you will be permanently invincible. And again, you could go invisible as Loki. We don't really need to go invisible as Loki. I'll show you some footage. We actually did a no invisibility challenge for level 10,000, and I didn't even die once. So he's got that covered too. But you can go invisible, and with the new invisibility settings, you can actually change what your invisibility looks like on invisibility characters. You go to attachments, and there's a little invisibility setting here. So you can. This is how you can look in mid mission. Now I didn't do this because, to me, it's hard to tell when you're actually invisible. So if you're being really lazy, you could maybe go with that, but I'm going to be going just with this one because I can actually tell when I'm invisible. So invincible and invisible, pretty good combo. Our Archon shards are 3 duration red Tau shards for 45% extra duration, and we've got 2 green shards on here to make our corrosive weapons fully remove enemy armor. That's part of the zombie setup, is to make sure you can fully armor strip and fully viral proc without even having to think very much. Okay, so as far as the mods on the build, Safeguard Switch is the most important mod on the entire setup. everything else should be duration and power strength. So we've got narrow-minded maxed out for big duration. The negative range doesn't really affect us too much because we can still cast Safeguard Teleport from about 25 meters away. And also with all this power strength, we're getting a 106% movement speed multiplier increase, which is quite nice. I would show you his new augment damage decoy, but it's actually not working properly right now, so I'm not going to even bother with it. The extra statuses do not apply when enemies attack the illusion, unfortunately. But the rest of it is going to be big duration, big power strength, energy nexus, vigorous swap. You really want to pump the damage. I'll show you this for the new Necromech Demolus, how I use this, and brief respite just because. Why not? A little bit of extra shield gate alongside your Safeguard Teleport. Because there are times, like they increase the cast time of Safeguard Teleport, but there's times where it takes a little bit long to cast anyway, because we're not running any casting speed on here. If you don't want to run the green shards, you're not planning to do like level 10,000 missions, then just run, you can run some casting speed there, or maybe even more duration for a longer invisibility. So yeah, this movement speed does stack with power strength, and I've also got the Kratos equipped now too for parkour velocity to go along with that movement speed multiplier. So quite nice on Loki. Alright, this is the new Simulacrum. If you want this new Simulacrum, you can grind that from the new Disruption node. Okay, so that's the build. As far as the Arcanes, Multi-Efficiency gives us more duration while our shields are active, and Arcane Precision gives us increased secondary damage on headshots, which we're using pistols to DPS with this setup. Additionally, I do have an Invigoration active right now. Secondary damage and immunity to statuses doesn't really affect this build too much, as this does give you, you're immune to a lot of stuff while this is active. All right, as far as showing the DPS weapons, let's go ahead and show why I have the Prisma Gorgon equipped first with the new Demolus on the newest Disruption tile. So the reason I have the Gorgon equipped is a special mod called Metamorphic Magazine. We'll have, I'll probably be going over some of this Necromech Demolus DPS stuff soon, but this can work on nearly any frame right here. So you bring the Gorgon, honestly the normal Gorgon would work too, and you bring the special Nightwave Augment Metamorphic Magazine. If you don't have that, it came out like a year ago or longer, you can just use Gloom instead, honestly. Gloom works on them too. But yeah, Metamorphic Magazine is going to make it where your weapon is going to stun the Necromech Demolus in place, and you can keep reapplying it over and over again. So that's a really good way to do it. And I'd recommend that you also, bring a Laetum pistol. The Laetum is what I'm using to DPS these Demolus because it has that I think it's called Overwhelming Attrition. I'm using the anti-crit one right now, Devouring Attrition. That hits these Necromech Demolus really hard. But here's the big thing, guys. Those Demolus scale their damage they're basically, by the way, they're mini Archons, pretty much. They're mini Archons, they have damage attenuation and all that. But the thing is that the more players you have in your squad, the more HP and the more damage attenuation they seem to have. So if you're in a full squad, don't expect to kill them in like 2 bullets like I'm killing them in the footage right here. Why is that? Because the solo player damage attenuation is really not bad in the slightest, whereas the 4-player one is like everybody team shot this thing for a good 10 seconds or longer. So keep that in mind if you are in a 4-player squad, it is just noticeably less damage you're dealing just on every build. So yeah, but as you can see in the footage right here, we are switch teleporting, we're running around really fast, we're going invisible because we're playing Loki, you might as well go invisible, and we're looking for the keys, because the keys don't really like to drop very much in this new game mode, I've noticed. But yeah, use Metamorphic Magazine for the Gorgon. You can actually throw on a utility build on there to like put procs on it, like put corrosive procs on it, put some cold procs. Cold procs also work on those Demolus as well. So you got some options there. Now let's get some level, I think it's not level 10,000, it's like level 6,000 gameplay on screen. For Void Cascade. And we're switching our weapons from the Laetum to the Dual Tox, and I'll show you builds for all this stuff here in a second. Alright, so for Void Cascade, this is the Don't Go Invisible challenge, and it didn't really go too poorly. So we're using the same builds as Zombie Ash, the Scourge, and the Dual Tox, and yes, you can switch teleport over guarded enemies, guys. So if there's a Thrax taking an Exalizer, you can switch teleport them across the room and that Thrax is no longer taking the Exalizer. Additionally, you can switch teleport Demolus, but not the new Demolus. These new Demolus, the Necromechs, you cannot switch teleport. But every other Demolus you can, from my experience. And that is not diminished by their Nullification Burst. Because, yeah, that's really, honestly, that's ridiculous. So you can keep switch teleporting the Demolus to the end of the hallway over and over again, and just make the Demolus never get to the tower. That's going to be very good if you're in a Disruption Fissure and you're waiting for the last couple of Reactant. You just go there, you go there as Loki, keep teleporting the Demolus back to the end of the room over and over again. You'll have enough time to get the Reactant to drop. As long as nobody comes over to kill the Demolus, that is. You can permanently, like, stun the Demolus in that way. And that's better than Magus Lockdown, too. Additionally, this Safeguard Switch augment is not nullified by nullifiers. So you can walk right into a nullifier bubble with your invincibility up, and you will not get nullified. Or rather, that ability will not get nullified. Your nerfs will get turned off. And that's something that Revenant can't even do. Revenant doesn't really care that much about nullifiers, but yeah, he will still get nullified in there. Loki will stay in permanent invincibility in the nullifier bubbles. That's crazy good. And since you can switch teleport over guard enemies, you're going to usually have an enemy you can switch teleport with to stay invincible. So he can handle Void Cascade with no Invis. He can handle the new Demolist tile set with minimal effort and just kind of chilling. So he's really, really good. And I don't really have any disruption footage to show you, but let me tell you, he's really good in disruption too. He's probably better in disruption than the other two modes I've shown you. I guess the new tile is disruption technically, but yeah, those Demolists can't be switch teleported. So let's go over the weapon builds of what we're running. And yeah, he's really, really good. Like honestly, I forgot this augment existed, Safeguard Switch. It's really nice. So as far as how you get invincible with it, you have to make sure you switch teleport an enemy for invincibility for yourself. If you switch teleport an ally, they'll get a ton of invincibility, but you will not. So just be aware of that. You can also switch teleport your illusion to your decoy and make that invincible too. But I'm not really using decoy that often, to be honest. Alright, so let's go over the builds we have here. So for the Prisma Gorgon, I'll probably have a more in-depth video on the new Demolist soon, but we got a utility build with Corrosive and Cold. The new Demolists are status capped to 4, and they cannot be armor stripped with things like Tharo Strike or even Unairu for that matter. So we've got some Corrosive procs, and we got some Cold procs to slow them down. So Corrosive procs will remove a little bit of armor, Cold procs to slow them down, and again, Metamorphic Magazine to stun them in place. After 20 cumulative attacks on an enemy, will petrify them for 5 seconds. It works on those new Demolists, and it's very nice. So basically, the way you do that is if they're really you won't notice this in solo. If you're in a 4-player squad, you use I'll show you the rotation right now. You Metamorphic Magazine, so that it's like this: cast Nourish, be invisible or something, stun, swap, stun, swap. Stun, swap. If they're damage attenuated so much you have to actually do that, that will be a great way to do it, because as you can see the top right corner, Vigorous Swap is constantly procced with this strategy, and the Demolist will be constantly stunned too, so it's a very easy way to go about, doing your DPS rotation, because the stun will wear off. If they're that damage attenuated, you're going to need to keep swapping over and over again to do that, so keep that in mind. And we do have Nourish for the viral on top, so they have tons and tons of procs. That Galvanized Shot is going to be having a bunch of extra damage, in addition to us having Arcane Precision. But yeah, if you want to throw in a Viral proc instead of Corrosive, you can totally do that, but we have Nourish on here, so I don't really think that would be a great idea, because you'd be losing a proc in the end. You could go for a more DPS-focused build here, but I didn't really think that was necessary. So just a ton of Fire Rate, a ton of Multi-Shot, and make sure that you just... Amalgam Restoration is great too. As we have that speed multiplier, this will get thrown in the mix, and we're moving even faster. Fractalized Reset, you don't need this, but it's great. On ability cast, increase reload speed by a ton for 5 seconds. So very nice there. Now for our Laetum DPS, well first let's show the Prisma Gorgon. We're not using it for DPS, but you don't even need the Incarnate, honestly. The Incarnate is not required for the Gorgon for this build, but the mod's nice. We've got Hoplite Virtue, Rapid Reinforcement, and Absolute Valor. This could probably be the status chance one, honestly. So yeah, that's probably a little bit better. Okay, so for the Laetum DPS, now this one does matter, okay? This one does matter. This is going to be used for Necromech Demolist, as they are weak to radiation. We've got Rapid Wrath, Lethal Rearmament, Elemental Excess, and Devouring Attrition. We have negative 1% crit chance on the build. If you don't have a negative crit chance Riven, we'll try to figure out something to put there instead for you. Okay, so this is why I'm using it against the Necromech Demolist. There is no primed Expel Murmur, unfortunately. So this is the best we got. And I don't even know if this is really math-wise that worth, but I do have it on here. If you were to run the Bane mod, there's other things you could run too, such as Gunslinger. Gunslinger could be okay. You could throw in some cold damage with Ice Storm, as the Necromech Demolists are weak to cold as well. But I've just been enjoying having Expel Murmur, as they are extremely weak to rad. Okay, so the build here is going to be Galvanized mods, Multi-Shot, and Radiation. We got the new Prime Convulsion mod with electric damage, and we got Prime Heated Charge to make big radiation damage. Our Riven is radiation damage and minus crit. You can also throw on Multi-Shot, obviously, because that's good. But the idea here is to kill those new Demolists. And if you don't have a minus reload Riven, you can just throw on Gunslinger there, I guess, for more fire rate. Now, of course, your crit chance goes from -1 to 12%, so you're going to have a 12% chance to not get a big access to that big negative crit bonus that these Incarnines do have. But yeah, the Riven is quite nice, as it gives you so much negative crit, you're guaranteed to not crit, basically, and that's what you want to do on this Laetum. You can do a crit Laetum too. I did try a crit Laetum on these Demolists. didn't really feel worth it, honestly, so I'm going to stick with this one for now. And this is going to be for the new Void rigs. Now, for level 10,000 Cascade, I am going to show you the Dual Tox that I usually use. And this one is not as good for Void rigs, but again, I haven't really messed with it too much. It might be good if I throw on like a Radiation build. But for right now, this is what we got for Cascade. Now, it's got Corrosive on here because we want to be fully removing enemy armor with 2 green shards to get 14 Corrosive procs. It's quite easy with a weapon like this. If you don't have a Riven, throw in the Seeker mod in that slot instead for Punch Through. And just hope that you get a Punch Through Riven someday. If you don't want to run Punch Through, I recommend it heavily, but you can just throw on, honestly, any other mod. Galvanized Crosshairs could even work in that slot. And also, since you're on Loki, you do want to make sure that you have a Silencer mod on your gun. You don't really need it, since you'll be invincible most of the time, but you should probably have it on here, if you're depending how lazy you're playing. But yeah, really powerful weapon here. And as far as the Praetos, this is not really... It's used for mobility, because we have that big speed multiplier now. We got sprint speed and slide, and we got parkour velocity. This stacks very nicely with his new speed multiplier thing to be moving really fast. For Void Cascade, we got Maturite to make our amp really destroy. And it also gives you more power strength with Chain Sling, I think it is. No, Sling Strength. Gives you extra power strength after 2 Void dashes. That will work with his speed multiplier and his Nourish. So very good stuff there. As far as the companion, I didn't really min-max the companion too much here, but I do have my Smita Cat here to just give me more resources. Now, this can be bad, actually. This cat loves to give me the orange crit guaranteed buff that makes my Laetum not get the access to the damage multiplier. So maybe don't bring the Smita Cat. You could bring something like, I know a lot of people like Diraga. I don't have a Diraga build set up right now. You could do Nautilus to group enemies up more. You could do Helios to scan stuff, because there's a lot of new stuff to scan in the update. But this is what I got right now, just to give me more resources. And yeah, I don't need Bite on here either, because we're not using a crit multiplier. Now, if you are going to be doing the Cascade, make sure you do have Tenacious Bond on here. Maybe a build more like this, because that Bite combined with Tenacious Bond gives your Dual Toxicist a better crit multiplier. But the first build, we were not using a crit weapon, so you can just stick with Ninja Cat for that one. And yeah, this is a very, very good build, guys. I was not giving Loki a proper chance. And now that his now that he's been buffed, I am giving him a proper chance. You can just jump into like 20 Exogox officers and not care. So I highly recommend you go get him, get a build similar to this, and you will have a very easy time. Nourish getting nerfed hardly even affected this build. So here's like, like 20 Exogox officers. Count Kirby is down, unfortunately. But we just keep refreshing this over and over again. As you can see, the energy multiplier in the bottom right corner is meaning we are not really having to go Invis. Now, if we go Invis, where'd I go? Where did I go? So I think they're shooting like a rad proc on me or something. Oh, they're shooting at Count Kirby still. So I'm invincible and invisible. This is things that not many other frames can really do. It's like a mixture of Ash and a mixture of Revenant. Now, what does Ash have over this still? Ash has the Smoke Shadow Augment mod, giving increased critical chance while he's invisible. And to be honest, here's one of the main issues with Loki, as far as comparing him to Ash and all that. Loki has no damage buffs. He has none. He has literally 0 damage buffs. His passive is to wall latch longer. Nothing here buffs his damage. That's why we got Nourish on here to get both energy multiplier and increased damage with weapons. But he has this over Ash. He is a speedster over Ash now with Switch Teleport, and he can also help his teammates be permanently invincible as well. So, very nice stuff there. Hopefully you guys found this video fun and helpful. I will be back with another video tomorrow. I'll probably be live on stream tonight too, so come on, stop by if you want to see what's going on. There's also drops active if you don't have the drops yet. And yeah, guys, enjoy this build. The Scourge, I didn't show the Scourge, but the Scourge build does not really require a whole lot. It's just basically throw a build with a ton of reload speed. Just throw the Scourge, and they'll get guaranteed headshots, and also give you some extra corrosive procs too. So very nice stuff. I'll see you in the next video. I appreciate all the support. Take it easy. Peace.